Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising as we begin a very special 5-day program on regenerative health. As we begin, I want to just note that yesterday we had a marvelous community call for our Chartres Academy. We had Anne Baring, who many of you know. She's one of the great researchers into the sacred feminine, has written a number of monumental works over the last several decades. She's just publishing her latest book, and she spoke very powerfully about the importance of the feminine in human well-being. She spoke about how the cathedral in Chartres, which is dedicated to Notre Dame, inspires awe and inspires healing and inspires the inspiration of the spirit. So I wanted to thank Anne once again for a marvelous presentation. I also want to invite everyone to come to Chartres this July 6th through 12th so that we can immerse ourselves together in a 7-day initiation, a 7-day ritual ceremonial process into the sacred feminine with lead faculties Veda Austin on the living intelligence of water, and also Bertie Jaworski, a world famous remote viewer who's going to teach us a bit about remote viewing with the purpose of going out at night under the Chartrian skies and communing with the ETs. It's going to be an extraordinary time. I wanted to mention Anne Baring and our pilgrimage to Chartres because I wanted to begin our program today underscoring what I would say the critical importance of understanding that it is our awareness of the sacred feminine that really is the foundation for any kind of well-being in our increasingly turbulent world. We're in a world in which the center does not hold. We're in a world in which chaos reigns. And how we navigate through what we see all around us now in the news is a matter of both personal concern, but also collective concern, because the pollution of our environment and the pollution of our media and the pollution of our politics infects our souls. So how we begin to engage with this external reality is something that we have to take extremely seriously. And the subject that we're going to be considering this week on regenerative health and how we understand our external environment in terms of climate change and a range of other critical global issues, and maintain our inner equilibrium, and in fact, proactively heal ourselves, is no longer an issue, I would say, of marginal concern. It's an issue that I would say is a national security concern. It's an issue that we have to take absolutely seriously. So we're very privileged to have Dr. Stephanie Mines back with us. You all know her very well on Humanity Rising. She has written 7 books, I believe, on various aspects of health and trauma. She has done an extraordinary amount of research on trauma and shock, both as someone who's suffered trauma, but someone who's professionally, therapeutically engaged in how one remedies a malady that infects us all. She's the founder of the Terra approach, She's also the founder of Climate Change and Consciousness, and probably more than anyone I personally know, has pioneered this interface between a radically changing climate and a world of contaminants and human health, and in particular, the neuroscience of birthing and child rearing and how we develop well-being in our world. So I want to appreciate everything Dr. Mines has done and welcome her to the program. She's going to be introducing us and then guiding our next 5 days on the theme of regenerative health. But Stephanie, thank you so much for everything that you do for our planet. And we're very honored, by the way, everyone, to have a academic program with Stephanie offering masters and PhDs in regenerative health. So thank you, Stephanie. I turn the program over to you.
Thank you, Jim. It's really precious to be back with you again. And I want to thank you. I want to thank the Humanity Rising team. I also want to encourage people to attend the program in Chartres. I went there myself a couple of years ago, and it is a memory that is iconic in my entire orientation towards how I've gone forward since then. So thank you, Jim, for all that you create. And thank you for welcoming the Regenerative Health for a Climate Changing World MA PhD program. And for this series this week, the Mother of Medicine. And let me continue with my thanks. As those of you who know me, you can see that I'm not in my usual environment at the Tara studio on the big island of Hawaii. I am now in Evanston, Illinois, where I traveled just yesterday so that I could facilitate this program and not have to wake up in the middle of the night as one of our presenters, Dr. Antonella Sansone, who is joining us from Australia, had to do. So I want to thank my hostess here in Evanston, my student, my colleague, and my dear friend, and a mother of medicine herself, Mary Spalding. And I want to thank her son, Lucien Dante Lazar, whose painting is behind me. Mary helped me set up this room so that I'm practically in the art museum of, well, of Mary's family, but specifically of Lucien Dante Lazar, whose beautiful painting here is one as a series that he will be exhibiting this summer in Los Angeles on mother and child. So I want to thank also my assistant and dear friend and colleague and also Tara practitioner, Courtney Graham, who is going to be managing the chat. Here's Courtney. I want everybody to meet her. She's there with her beautiful daughter, Coralie. And I have my chat turned off, just so you know, because I can trust Courtney to respond to your questions, forward them to me and to the other panelists. And I want you to see this beautiful young woman who I'm so honored to have as my better half in the Tara approach and climate change and consciousness. So I'm going to begin with an overview to this Trailblazer series. And the intention here is building momentum towards a summit November 7th through the 9th on the Mother of Medicine, where you'll have the opportunity to dive much more deeply into the themes that we're presenting this week. I'm extremely excited to offer both this Trailblazer and the Mother of Medicine. I want to refer back to Jim's introductory comments and really second them in terms of the singular importance of the voices of women during this time. And of course, my particular focus is on the voices of women as leaders in the regenerative health paradigm, which is more than a revolutionary paradigm. It is a necessity as we see the complete destruction of the fragmentary healthcare system that many of us have been suffering under. So I'm going to read a little bit from my notes here in overview to this week so that you get a sense of the treasure that lies in wait for you here. And I'm also going to introduce my co-facilitators for this program, Doctors Cherionna Menzam-Sills and Antonella Sansone, who will be with us all week. So the true purpose of this entire series is actually a redefinition of what it means to be a woman and what it means to be a mother and of motherhood itself. We are living in a time when motherhood and femininity is so severely commodified that its indigenous nature has been occluded. And as my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Cherionna Menzam-Sills says, prenatal life, the exquisitely orchestrated development of humanity, is in shadow. This is not just a failure of education or a misunderstanding of science. It is a power grab. The intention of this Trailblazer series is to allow you to experience regenerative health. This is not a protest. It is the fulfillment of a prophecy. Women's leadership is needed for the future of humanity. Women's leadership, in particular in healthcare, is necessary for the future of humanity, which women carry in their bodies, which is why we qualify as healthcare leaders. And I'm speaking of all women, whether you have children or not. And I am also speaking of the men who support women as healthcare leaders, as the carriers of the future of humanity. And there are many of them, and there are many of them who are supporting us in this call right now. This Trailblazer series reunites us prophetically with a matriarchal lineage and its vision of bringing women out of compensatory, accommodating, and caregiving to unequivocally live in our collective original brilliance. The word woman has been eradicated from the annals of the National Institute of Health. Women's health has also been disappeared. Maternal deaths are ignored. Motherhood itself has become a tool of fascism. Children are being stripped of their rights to explore and to choose who and what they want to be. Childbearing is politicized and industrialized. The ecstatic rites of passage that are prenatal life, labor, and delivery of babies of the future of humanity are deemed inconvenient. We bring forth life. We nurture life. The magnitude of cellular and neurohormonal change that women experience in the cycles of maiden, mother, and crone ignites the potential for original brilliance and exceptional resilience. So the power of the feminine is so regal, so all-encompassing, that words often simplify and therefore mask it. That is why we are going to open now with movement. I would like to welcome my colleague, my dear friend, and my student, Dr. Rosaria Gracia, who is a Tara practitioner, a movement curator, a mother, and a woman who speaks every language in the world through movement. Welcome, Rosaria, and please ignite the trailblazer with movement.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm very honored to be here and to start this amazing week. My name is Rosaria Gracia, and I'm a dance artist. One of the elements I would like to bring in as a dance teller, I would like to introduce you to the imagery of Yemanja. Yemanja is a Yoruban goddess and is the representative of the sea. So she is considered the mother of all the Orisha, and her main features are being nourishing and holding the space and guide the space. It could be calm or it could be turbulent, but it's that holding a space that goes beyond genders, ages, borders that I would like to invite you to tap into. So the movement that I'm going to suggest is reminiscent of some of the dances from Yemanja, but I would like you to do your own thing. I'm going to play some music and just tap into that element of being nourished and provide nourishment, being the holder of the community, but also a guide, and see what that means to you and how that can be represented through movement. So the main, you could do sitting down or standing up, and as she is the goddess of the sea, one of the main moves that we will do is just waves. So I will do a standing up, but if you want to do a sitting down, this is an option. So just waves. And then making the wave with one arm and wash yourself, as it were, and then with the other one. And wash yourself. Then we are just going to go through the path and embrace ourselves with the waters. And then just having the signal of the lighthouse as a kind of place to go. So those are the main moves I'm going to do. I'm going to turn around, and if you want to do sitting down, you can turn around with the arms like that, or just do your own thing. I invite you to tap into that sentiment. And we are going to start with one hand in the chest and the other one here. Like if you're holding a baby, you're holding yourself. And I would like to mention that the music we are going to be using is created by a wonderful Brazilian artist called Maite Inai. And I was in touch with her this morning, and she was quite taken back by me using the music, but more importantly, she's a doula. So she's supporting a birth now, which I thought that it was very serendipitous. So I'm not going to give instructions or anything in the music. I would like to open the path and for you to enjoy. And see you after.
Omolode, omotiti yo, ele olade. Awoyo, omolode, omotiti yo, ele olade. Omolode, omotiti yo, ele olade. Yemaya, omolode, umbatete yo, ele olade. Omolode, omotiti yo, ele olade. Awoyo, omolode, omotiti yo, ele olade. Omolode, omotiti yo, ele olade. Yemaya, omolode, umbatete yo, ele olade. Omolode, omotiti yo, ele olade. Yemaya, oluba chikini, oluba, oluba chikini maelewo, oluba toloku, era wiwe oni yan yan, omolomi ode. Oluba chikini, oluba, oluba chikini, oluba,
Thank you very much. So over to you, Stephanie.
Wow. Thank you, Rosaria. Perfectly wonderful. A gift to me as I orchestrate this week. Rosaria will be joining us again, bringing us the body of the feminine. She is also part of the Tara approach. She's a practitioner. She's now in the process of becoming a Tara teacher. So the Tara approach for the resolution of shock and trauma is the regenerative health paradigm that I've developed, and it's a main feature of the Regenerative Health MA PhD program. And this entire series, plus the summit in November, is part of that regenerative health program. So if you attend this series and then you attend the summit, that would count towards your MA or your PhD in regenerative health. And you'll get to spend more time with Rosaria, which is worth everything. So thank you, Rosaria, so much. And now I'd like to say a little bit more about the series and bring in Doctors Cherionna Menzam-Sills and Antonella Sansone. And I want to actually award Cherionna today the first original Brilliance Award. And I'll be talking about what that means. So I want to just look at this statement about the mother of medicine. Why do we use that statement? And is it simply a platitude to honor women like a Mother's Day greeting card? It's not that at all. So every moment that mothers spend watching our children and our grandchildren develop, tracking their growth, seeing into their original brilliance, as mothers have done from time immemorial, we, the women doing that, and the men who take the time to do that, like my son-in-law is doing with my precious new grandbaby, that practice of, to a certain extent, worshiping children, but really tracking them carefully, changes our brains. And women have been doing that for so long, and science has now documented this, that the very deep, compassionate, loving, attuned observation, the deep witnessing of children, as I am doing now with my granddaughter, that changes our neurochemistry, our neurobiology, and evolves our consciousness. And this is now scientifically tested and proven. And that has to be said because historically we haven't taken what women say as truth when it always has been. So science is now proving women's truth just as it proves indigenous wisdom. They are one and the same. So what happens to us as we learn from our children, I consider my granddaughter my greatest teacher at this time, evolves our consciousness, and then that evolution transfers to our children and to their children. But alongside that as well is how we are learning about human development, about life itself. And that is what makes us healthcare leaders. And my intention in this series is, as I mentioned, a prophecy. intended to remind all the women and the men who support them, whether they choose to be mothers or not, women who identify as women, women who identify in whatever way feels organic to them, all of us have this capacity to be healthcare leaders from this scientific process of deep, profound observation and learning and attending to human development. That is why we are the mothers of medicine. Now, the truth is that this entire treasury of wisdom that resides in women has been put into shadow. And as I said in my introductory comments, that is a power grab. The purpose of the Trailblazer and the summit is to end that power grab. That is the prophecy, that the time has come now for women to reclaim our voices and our healthcare leadership. And we will give the original Brilliance Award today to Dr. Cherionna Menzam-Sills. So Cherionna, if you could come on, and Antonella, please join us. Cherionna's newest book, The Prenatal Shadow, really gives you the background to everything that I just said. And Cherionna is a dear friend of mine. In my notes, the first line is that Cherionna began teaching embodied embryology through somatic movement in 1997 as part of her doctoral thesis in pre and perinatal psychology. And I am remembering that you offered one of those classes in my studio in El Dorado Springs, just outside of Boulder, Colorado. That's how long I've known Cherionna. And we have been companions on this path for some time. Mm-hmm. And it is truly a fulfillment of this prophecy I'm speaking of for us to be here together. Your book, The Prenatal Shadow, is the explication that we need. It's the game changer to awaken people to, thank you, Cherionna, available to order. We have a shared publisher, Inner Traditions. Thank you to Inner Traditions for recognizing this prophecy. And I'm going to ask Cherionna to tell you why she is receiving the original Brilliance Award from Climate Change and Consciousness and the TAR approach. So this is the ignition of the original Brilliance Award, and we will be sending you a beautiful certificate. But I am arranging for a preview copy of my book, The Spirit of Monarchy, to be sent to you as soon as it's available, in my gratitude for your wonderful research, your incredible writing, and your commitment to this prophecy. So thank you, Cherionna. And I really would like you to share the intention and the depth of your book, The Prenatal Shadow. Thank you so much, Courtney, for sharing the certificate that Courtney created for you. And I'd like to invite Antonella, whenever you're ready, that you can also come on. You're going to be a commentator here as we listen to Cherionna, and we can dialogue then about what Cherionna shares and the intention of this entire week. Over to you, Cherionna.
Oh, Stephanie, thank you so much. Whoa. I have to say, Stephanie, you've always been incredibly supportive to me as long as we've known each other, which is why I taught that class in your beautiful studio in El Dorado Springs all those years ago. I think you invited me a few times to teach in your classes at Naropa. And, you know, that really got me started teaching this work. So I'm forever grateful to you for that. And how wonderful to come back together after all these years and, you know, get to co-create something again. So,
and I want to remind everyone that Cherionna and Antonella, they are both on the faculty of the Regenerative Health MA PhD. So please consider really the mentorship that we make available to you. You can have Cherionna as a mentor through the Regenerative Health program and also by attending the summit. So once again, Cherionna, we're partnered.
Yes, and thank you also for, I'm so touched by the award. It's like I felt like I've been ignited a few times here today already. First of all, by Jim's introduction and the sacred feminine, which I'll speak about that in a moment from my own perspective, and everything you've said and done, Stephanie, and Rosaria, that beautiful dance. I just loved that. And the award, it just really touches me. The first award for my book. So, and the
Well,
first
and
original Brilliance Award, whatever that is.
well, that's exactly what I wanted to ask you to talk about, because we recently recorded a conversation, which we can make available to everyone, about what is meant by original brilliance. And your term, so Cherionna and I have come up with these terms independently. We have been separated for a long time, even though we had our origins in this study in Colorado, and we're reuniting here as a result of the Regenerative Health MA PhD program. But separately, as researchers and as pre and perinatal psychologists, we've come up with these terms. So mine is original brilliance, and Cherionna's is original embryological potential. And I would like you to speak a bit about that, if you don't mind today, because these terms are directly related to the mother of medicine and how the mother of medicine brings forth individually everyone's original embryological potential.
Yeah, so we've been on parallel paths. Maybe, or what was that movement? Parallel paths, which I appreciate. And yeah, so my term, original embryological potential, I think it's a little different from original brilliance, but they're definitely close relatives. Ah, hi, Antonella.
Yes.
Glad you made it, Antonella.
Welcome.
No, I couldn't share the video. I don't know why.
But here you
Here you are.
I send a message and now magically I can.
That's great.
So your original
But I
potential,
could hear you. I could hear you. That's important.
your original potential has come through. And I call mine original embryological potential, coming out of my passion for embryology and seeing how we develop, miraculously, really, from one little unicellular organism. When the sperm and egg come together, we're a unicellular organism, relatively simple, and we develop these complex bodies. And there's a vast intelligence, a brilliance, if you will, that knows how to do that and how to go through all the developmental stages and challenges that we go through prenatally as well as later. And so there's I think you've already mentioned resilience, Stephanie. There's a resilience in that. And what I see is that we can come back to that at any time. Like the example I like to use is, if you cut your finger and watch it heal, I mean, that's incredible. How does it know how to do that, right? But I'm really interested in this phenomenon of shadow, what's stuffed into the unconscious because it's considered unacceptable. And unfortunately, our brilliance and our potential, and along with that, our resilience and our health are in shadow. And so, what I'm really fond of looking at and what my prenatal shadow book is about is that the prenate, the little one in the womb, before and also around the time of birth, is highly intelligent, highly aware, sentient, a little person. Excuse me. Sorry, it's hay fever season here. And that intelligence, that brilliance, if you will, is so seldom recognized and acknowledged. And therefore, little ones and their intelligence, their sensitivity doesn't get included. So during the birth process, for example, generally, no one's talking to the little one and letting them know what's going to happen. But related to that, I come back to the sacred feminine. Right? The little one is an expression of the sacred feminine. They're coming through the feminine body. The feminine includes fertility, pregnancy, birth, mothering in every possible way. And I see that as also being shoved into shadow in our modern world, where the masculine has predominated and has done its best so I don't look at it as much about men and women. I think women can embody the feminine more easily than men. It's more natural, but men also have it and can do it. And women can also overly embody the masculine, like some female obstetricians I've heard about, right? But these are about different qualities, and feminine qualities include deep listening. That's relational. So where the masculine is looking at separating things out, analyzing, tearing things apart so that they can be controlled, right? The feminine is looking at the relationship between the parts, the connectedness and the wholeness. And there's a deep listening and receptiveness involved in that. And isn't that what's most needed in the whole birthing process? Not just for birth, however, but for any relationship, including, I think this is really seen as well in our relationship with Mama Earth. And I know Humanity Rising is really interested in that, and you're really interested in that, Stephanie, how we treat and really mistreat our planet. To me, it's similar to how we mistreat little ones in the womb. And I'll just say one more thing about that there is the idea in the world of prenatal and birth psychology that people mistreating the earth are reenacting how they felt in the womb, and possibly their anger at the mother who wasn't supported to really support them. And so, I'm really interested in deep listening and support, layers of support for the whole birthing process. And that is a feminine process and desperately needed on our planet. If we're going to survive, we need to start listening more deeply. I do think this is all starting to come out of shadow, which is why my book could be published. And I think it's part of a movement right now for various things to come out of shadow. So I have hope.
Thank you, Cherionna. And you're really illustrating this particular aspect of the mother of medicine and why women are the healthcare leaders. The origin of healthcare practice really is in deep listening, even though that has disappeared from what has become a systemic insult to the very term healthcare. But that is originally how healthcare developed. And the teachers originally of that deep listening, of course, have always been women. And what my original Brilliance concept says, and I think it matches, perhaps runs alongside of what you've discovered as original embryological potential, is that the way in which we compensate physiologically, strategically, in terms of our orientation, and in order to manifest our will to be here. So as we were coming on board today, just for this program, I told you a little bit about my difficulties traveling here to Evanston. My flight was canceled, but I got here, right? Nothing was going to stop me. When the airline sent me this message that I would be booked on a flight the next day, which would mean I wouldn't get here in time to do this, I said, no way. And I set about to get myself another flight, fully paid for by the airline. And, I spent many more hours awake than I would like, but I got here. And other people who were the support team had difficulties, health challenges, significant ones. And yet they all showed up today. So that's how we were determined to get here, that we were determined to manifest this vision. And all of us who are watching, listening right now have done exactly the same thing, to be here now at this momentous time in history. And we can investigate the very detailed strategies we came up with non-verbally, non-cognitively, somatically, sensorially to get here. And that is what I mean by original brilliance.
Yeah, it's very parallel. And yeah, we all did that coming in the beginning to conception and from conception. And it's still available. That to me, that how we arrived establishes a template. And we can come back to what we've already done. We've already survived. You know, in the world of pre and perinatal trauma and psychology, people like to focus on the trauma, and it's easy to get lost there. But there's so much health. The very fact that we're looking at it suggests that we are healthy enough to be able to do that, right? And something in us knows that we can heal. Healing and health, they have to do with wholeness. That's what they mean. You know, we can come back to wholeness where we may drop parts of ourselves in shadow.
So it's the restoration really of that consciousness to healthcare that is one of the many significant aspects of why women are the healthcare leaders we need right now, and why women will and are revolutionizing the healthcare and healthcare delivery that we need at a time when the insults to that wholeness are proliferating. So within the regenerative health program, within the paradigms that I teach, we have resources for addressing pollutants, for addressing the contaminants that accelerate in this insult to the earth that you've described. And just to illustrate that very briefly and very personally, so when my granddaughter was coming into the world, there were some interventions that were necessary from a medical standpoint, which I disagreed with, but which the medical system insisted upon. And they were an insult to my granddaughter, but I was able to really counteract those insults quite readily with the regenerative resources that I have. These are specific applications. These are the kind of things that we learn and that we teach when we have the prism of the mother of medicine and when we have the tools of regenerative health. And this seems like a good time to bring in Dr. Antonella Sansone, who is the co-facilitator of this series. So Antonella and Cherionna and I will be with you every day in this unfolding week of regenerative health. And Antonella's specialty really is on a redefinition of mindfulness and a redefinition of how we communicate mother to child, families to child in prenatal development from conception onwards. And Antonella is also on the faculty of the Regenerative Health MA PhD program and a leader in the summit in November. So Antonella, please share your insights into this original brilliance, original embryological potential that Cherionna and I are talking about.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm very delighted to be here. And also, I want to express my delight and how honored I am to have written the foreword of Cherionna's book. I feel that I contributed a little bit to the delivery of her book. So because it's 2:00 a.m. here, so I decided to read so that I can contain what I would like to say. So I trained as a clinical psychologist over 30 years ago, but when I started to explore the pre and perinatal world and to work with pregnant mothers and their babies, I realized my inner drive was not to feed our cultural mental illness construct by delivering diagnoses, but in kindling mothers' inner wisdom resources, supporting their well-being, and with it, their baby's development and health and human flourishing, which is related to the concept of potential, original brilliance. The period before and around conception, pregnancy, birth, and the early postpartum soon appear as an incredible window of opportunities, which, if nourished, can mitigate the risk of many later problems, individual, societal, and ecological. So my motherhood experiences found a profound resonance with my experience with an African indigenous culture, still living like in the pre-colonizing era. When I shared the life of the Himba with my husband and young daughters, one of the most outstanding revelations was that everyone was a mother, allo mothering, and you could not figure out who actually was the mother of a child. Everyone had mothering skills from very young age, both boys and girls. Women with their caregiving, regulatory, and healing mothering skills were the leaders of the community, just as they are in any matriarchal society. They were supported by the community and never stressed. Everyone was exposed to and learned shared childcare, boys and girls. Empathy and compassion, emotional regulation, interconnection with other human fellows, and every element of Mother Nature, interconnection, resilience, reliance upon the sensory communication system present in the body or embodiment, slow pace of movement, fluid movements and gesture in caring and interacting with the babies, all human qualities developed as a matter of routine because supported from before conception through specific nurturing practice, which I had the privilege to witness and to hear about, because these women actually were very, very curious and very often responded to my question with other questions about our world. And what was amazing is that our understanding preceded what the translator was translating. So they felt that my interest in motherhood and children, which is the center of their life, they sense that. And that's allow opening and welcoming us in their hats, because we were not there to take photos and we were sleeping in a tent in their village. So these wisdom practicing and all the human qualities fostered had been passed on through generations by default. They were the mother of medicine, the mother's leadership in healthcare and community life. One could get a sense of life flow as if the undisturbed fluidity of prenatal life was preserved through a continuum. This also transpires through the many photos my husband took, which feature several conference presentations I've given, and unfortunately I can't share today. And I also found out that this set of skills are fostered by mindfulness practice and promote both attuned parenting and secure attachment. Both secure attachment and mindfulness engage the same areas of the brain and the social engagement system. So indigenous cultures have been practiced a mindful way of being and life for millennia. This set of inner feminine skills supported by indigenous communities appear to be a protective factor for maternal and child health and their bonding relationship, which we know is foundation of a child development and well-being. So this led me to the development, the design of the prenatal mindfulness relationship-based program, which is called the mindfulness based because obviously integrate mindfulness with the ancient indigenous practices, and the relationship based because it's focused on this primal embodied relationship, integrates prenatal psychology. So it's the first mindfulness based program which integrates prenatal psychology, so awareness of the unborn baby, preborn baby, as a human being, sentient being capable to establish a relationship, to respond to maternal emotions, thoughts, consciousness, but also to initiate communication. And this is based also on the observation, accurate observation I made during my first pregnancy. And, you read articles I publish on Kindle, Kindred, and I follow up later in life. And even now, that Giselle is 19, she honor and acknowledges that period of life that is very formative in, her predispositions, her taste for music, her musicality, her sense of rhythm, her love for people, her writing skills, her depth, her empathy, compassion. So the prenatal period is not foundationally only of health in terms of physical health, but human values. And as Cherionna said, I do agree that it shapes also our respect for Mother Nature, because it's our first contact experience of nature is in our mother's body, in her womb.
Thank you
And
so much, Antonella.
it's a filter, the connection, the relationship that the mother has with nature and the mammalian caregiving competence is filtered and sensed by the baby. So
Thank
a
you,
lot
thank you.
is going on in that period.
Thank you. This really gives you the insight into the subtitle of The Mother of Medicine, the science and the wisdom of the prenatal origins of health. So you'll get that deep dive at the summit. We have to close for today. I want to bring Jim back on for concluding remarks. And I also want to give everyone a highlight for the rest of the week. Tomorrow is a very special day. Every day is going to be so rich. Tomorrow we have Ibu Robin Lim, the founder of Bhumi Sehat and other similar birthing and healthcare centers throughout the world, a winner of the CNN Hero Award. And she will be telling us how, out of her experience of loss, she came to be such a servant of humanity. And much more to come. Jim, I hope you've enjoyed the Mother of Medicine introduction here, this trailblazer. It's so great to be with you.
Very much so. I've been listening very attentively. And I wanted to, first of all, compliment you, Cherionna, on the award of it's really a tribute to your work and your commitment to these matters. And so I just want to acknowledge it and congratulate you on behalf of us all. And I wanted to start, Antonella, with the point that you were just making about the relationship between a mother's bonding with her child and a mother's bonding with nature. We don't often think about that. We think of the, the Madonna and child, kind of independent of nature. But I think you're making a very profound point, and I wanted to explore it by having you comment, all three of you comment, on the reality that most mothers are not connected with nature anymore.
Oh, well,
They're in these
we're going to
big,
address that this week, Jim. We have
yeah.
an incredible speaker, Dr. Ali Davis, who actually
Oh,
just
okay.
joined. She just joined the Regenerative Health faculty.
That's so
She's our
important.
newest member, and that is exactly what Ali teaches. So Ali has created this Mother Tree program, which is specifically about what you just mentioned. This is so important. You are spot on that mothers, along with everyone, have lost connection deliberately. Again, it's the power grab with the earth. And Ali guides mothers back to that connection through very specific exercises. And she's also writing a book, which I intend to get published if I can be of support for that, about that exact process.
Could I say something very briefly to
I
that?
would love to have your all comment on this because it's a huge issue.
Well, I see it as a vicious cycle. So, I mentioned how prenatal experience sets a template for how we engage in everything later on. All our we start with the relationship with mother, and that gets extended to relationships with each other, relationship with the earth. But that doesn't start there. The earth was there, as far as I know, before we came along. And the earth was there, and as a sense, as a mother to us all, a layer of support for all of us. And so, in indigenous traditional cultures, there was a listening to that. There was a leaning into that, a grounding into that, rooting into that. And that was part of the sacred feminine. That was sacred, right? And so where that happens, that supports the bonding that Antonella is talking about. But where that's been interrupted, where the masculine has taken over trying to control everything and analyze everything, that gets interrupted. So then the bonding gets interrupted. So then that interrupted bonding can be acted out in the relationship with the earth as well. And it just goes round and round. But we are interrupting that cycle, I hope.
Yeah, can I also add something? Okay, first of all, I would like to say that mindfulness, actually, I don't know if you know a little bit about mindfulness, but that actually aims to foster the interconnection with nature. So it's one of the tenets of mindfulness, and this is a core in my program, and that's why it's called the prenatal mindfulness relationship-based, because it reclaims the mammalian nature, which is linked obviously to Mother Nature, and also indigenous people, and this is common in almost all indigenous cultures, including Aboriginal. Before conceiving a child, a woman goes into the forest or into the bush, according to where they live, and they sing a song to connect with the soul of the child. And when they believe, they hear this soul, they consider that the child already has been conceived. So they go into the hut just to welcome. So as Cherionna said, there is already a connection. There is already something which is beyond. So they have this sense of the cosmos and nature that is really intrinsic and has been violated, I think, by, some historical phenomenon like, colonialism. Because with colonialism, birth, pregnancy, the connection with nature have been colonized. And that's why now we need to decolonize and reclaim all those human virtues that allowed us to evolve as a humanity, to get to where actually we are supposed to be, but we are not anymore. So what happened recently is only 0.99% of the humanity history, while the indigenous history is 99.9% of our humanity history. So can you imagine, we evolved in this long evolutionary period, and what's happening, these changes, recent changes, are occurring very, very quickly, and that's why we are paying the consequences with mental health disorders, because the system, our nervous system, cannot adapt to such fast changes. I mean, the children, babies' basic needs are not met anymore.
Mhm.
And so it's really a disconnection from our deepest mammalian nature, feminine. We can call feminine, mammalian. We're just talking about the same things. We just change them. But mindfulness is is the most ancient practice. All programs that they reclaim these values, and especially femininity, the sacred femininity, are mindfulness based. But mindfulness is the most ancient practice that's been practiced by all indigenous traditional societies. The slow pace of life, sense of presence, which is vital for a baby. A baby doesn't understand, cannot postpone, cannot understand if the mother needs to send a message on the phone. If that moment it needs eye contact, cannot postpone that. And unfortunately, there is no presence in the body, and that's what the baby needs, the presence. And that's the most fundamental thing. And if mothers don't connect with their own body, their own senses, their own feelings, how is possible to connect with the baby who is developing the body? So that's why my PhD is focused on these domains, maternal domains, including interoception. So the perception of the inner space is essential, because if there isn't a perception of what's going on in your baby, in your body, how can you perceive? Interpret the baby's movement, which are not random. They have a meaning. Baby communicates through movement. They are not just a random exercising. Yes, they're also to practice and prepare for life outside the womb, but they all have, and the mother teaches the baby the meaningful, how to use this movement to communicate. So it's a very, very sophisticated and deep, profound communication that affect the baby nervous system, how the baby uses the movement to, the baby anticipate the mother's intention. My baby,
Thank you, Antonella. Yeah, so you can hear more about Antonella's deep understanding throughout this week and in the summit. But I also want to mention this whole theme that you are speaking to, Jim, is also explicated further in the latest issue of Kindred magazine, an online journal, is devoted to the mother of medicine. And all of our presenters, or most of them here this week, are also published in that Kindred issue. So I recommend that everybody read that. Courtney will post the link to it, and you can dive more deeply into the science and wisdom that we're sharing with you. And I also want to mention the after chat, so that people who would like to join us and actually be seen by us, I will be in the after chat. The link will be put in the chat for you. And you could actually be in person with Cherionna and Antonella and I, and we can actually see who you are.
Well, then let's adjourn to the after chat. You'll see the link in the chat box, and you received the link in your Zoom reminder for today. But I want to thank all three of you very deeply. I can't think of a more critical issue of our time. I have a new grandson, and watching him grow up in an urban setting is a real challenge when you know how big the vastness of nature around us is, and you can see how constrained most little children are in the concrete jungle in which we find ourselves, most of us, at least in the United States and the industrial world. So this is a very important subject.
We should probably bring Coralie on screen. So just as you're mentioning your grandson, so Coralie,
Oh,
there you
oh,
have
beautiful,
the
beautiful,
mother of
beautiful.
medicine brought to you in the flesh here. Coralie, born during the time that I've known Courtney, and a precious part of Regenerative
Beautiful,
Health, the living.
beautiful.
Thank you, Courtney, for coming on screen with Coralie at this perfect time.
Good. Well, that'll bring us to a close for today, everyone. You can join Stephanie and Antonella and Cherionna in the after chat. Thanks, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Thank
Bye
you,
for now.
everyone.
Thank you.